What's up, y'all? Inside the razor wire. Been a little while since I've done a video, so I figured I'm up. Might as well go ahead and drop something for y'all. This one's gonna be something that I get a lot of questions about on the street, from friends, from people I just met, curious about prison, uh, all that stuff. And that's white boys and prison gangs. Now, I've been to a lot of jails in a lot of different states, but I've only been to prison in Maryland. So I can only speak on what I know from Maryland prisons. And that is, for the most part, with the exception being your Aryan Brotherhood, which are not real prevalent in Maryland. As a matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, they're on protective custody because just everybody in the prison system has got it out for them, if that's what they're claiming they are when they hit a compound. Or when they're coming in and they're being screened walking into prison, or coming from the diagnostic center, or whatever the case may be. If they are flagged as an Aryan Brotherhood member, they'll automatically put them in protective custody or administrative segregation somewhere to where they can't get hurt, because Maryland's just not having the Aryan Brotherhood around here. Now, they are here. As a matter of fact, if you remember, or you look it up from back in the news in 2016 or 2017, it was the Aryan Brotherhood who killed a longtime DMI member named Pick in the Jessup Correctional Institution, JCI. So they're around. And the one big exception that I know is the Crips. I have met quite a few legitimate Crips that were white. But for the most part, the rest of them gangs, they don't have nothing to do with white folks. They're definitely not bringing in any as a member. So before I get into these next couple stories for you, just remember that if you're going into the prison system, if you've been to the prison system, you're going back to the prison, whatever the case may be. If you are approached by one of these organizations and you're white, I don't care how thorough you are. I don't care whether you sling that knife or not. You are not going to see it end very well for you. So I'm going to give you a couple examples on this video right here. Now the first one's kind of a cornball. But he thoroughly believed he was a gangster. This man's name is Smiley. I was at the Central Maryland Correctional Facility in Sykesville, Maryland. It's called Central Laundry for short. It's where they got a huge laundry building there, and most all of the sheets and the pillowcases and whatnot from the Jessup region go down there. The laundry gets done, it gets dispersed back out to the different prisons. That's why it gets called Central Laundry. It's what a lot of jobs are, doing laundry. It's a minimum security joint. It's all dorms. A building, you got top and bottom bunks, so you're talking 60, 70 people in a dorm. And down in B building, it's just flat out bottom bunks, wide open, about 40 men to a dorm. There's a common area in the middle, so you're talking roughly 80 people in every dorm down there, just intermingling around. The only area that you have is the area, the space, the width of your locker between your bed, your locker, and the next man's bed next to you. Other than that, it's just a wide open dorm with no privacy whatsoever. Shower door is a little piece of plywood that swings open. I, just enough to cover, the male area or whatever when you're in the shower. But it's an 8 or 9 man shower in there with a bench, and the community bathroom is just a straight shot. They can see it from the CO's bubble. They can look straight back in there and see if you on the shitter, if you're, in front of the pisser, whatever the case may be. But it's designed to where the COs can see you from everywhere. There's really no blind spots. So I had just started my bit, the 5 years I was doing. Started it in 2016. First place they sent me was Central Laundry. I was minimum security, 5 years and under, no detainers or what have you. So I was classified as minimum security. So yeah, I got sent to a real low security joint. Lots of rec, lots of freedom to move around and what have you. But we all know when it comes to a place like that, more movement, more freedom, more wide open it is, the more stuff is in there, and the more rowdy it can be. It's just on the low. But for the most part, it's a pretty laid back joint. But when it jumps off, it really jumps off. So I'm downstairs. I'm in B building. And I'm in Frederick dorm. When you walk through the little doorway to get into the dorm, from where the day room is, the TV, the pool table, and what have you, you look straight across, and that's where my bunk was. Directly across from me was a man named Smiley. Let me tell you a little bit about Smiley. Smiley's about 23 years old. Smiley's about 5'10", maybe 190. Blonde haired, blue eyed, typical white boy. I think he was from Columbia, Maryland, which is a ritzy, predominantly white part of town in Maryland. Smiley had been there for a little while before I got there. Smiley had established himself somehow, some way, as a gangster disciple. Your guess is as good as mine. Being in prison a few times, being in a lot of joints that I've been in, gangster disciple's not really a name you hear around here. It's not really an East Coast based organization. From what I know about it, they're predominantly Chicago or the Midwest type of deal. But you don't hear about too many white ones. Now, from what I understand, learning a little bit more as I've gone, I do know that they do admit some white boys, but they don't admit no blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boys that grew up with a silver spoon in their mouths from Columbia, Maryland. I can tell you that much. But if I had to describe Smiley, any of y'all ever seen Malibu's Most Wanted? Yeah, that's that dude. Smiley is Malibu's Most Wanted to a T. He talked like that. He walked like that. As exaggerated as that dude made that character out to be, that was this dude in real life. With the exception that he carried his little black and blue little flag around, threw up his little gang signs, or whatever. But apparently he had done enough before I had gotten there to, I guess, convince these other gangs that he was a member or something. So for the most part, he was left alone. But after a little while, getting to know Smiley, like I said, he slept across from me, so I would talk to him here and there. He was not a homeboy of mine. He was not nobody I'd walk the yard with. I didn't eat with this man or nothing like that. Like I said, dude was just a straight lane. But you could see him digging himself a hole. The man is 23 years old. First time in prison. And I guess he figured the best way for him to be left alone was to claim something, because for the most part, gang members are left alone in there. If you're affiliated, you're protected under whatever flag or whatever organization or whatever the case may be. And Smiley had himself a real big Suboxone and cigarette habit in there. Anytime you saw Smiley, he was putting a piece of OJ up his nose or he was smoking a cigarette. His family looked out for him, sent him plenty of money. He had whatever he needed whenever he needed it. And I guess that's another big reason people pretty much left him alone. Because he would look out for whoever if somebody needed something or whatever. He was real quick to break something off for somebody because he had it like that. Well, before long, we had got a Mexican dude in our dorm. He slept on the same side of the dorm as Smiley did, but he slept like 4 bunks down from him. He slept between an Amish dude named Henry, and I mean an Amish guy. This guy had pictures of him and his horse and buggy, wearing the hat, the beard, the whole 9 yards. And another dude named Larry that was just a crackhead from Dundalk, Maryland, which is right outside of Baltimore. And the word had gotten around the dorm that this Mexican dude was in there for touching little boys. Everybody knows what happens to these guys. So after some investigating and digging and people getting on the phone and looking up his resume, people were really plotting on this dude. People would take little things from him here and there, but they wouldn't walk up and just take them. People were stealing from this man because he didn't really speak English. Kind of a small, frail dude. Wasn't really gonna make no fuss over nothing. Something would come up missing. Hey man, somebody steal my shoes. Somebody steal my, that kind of stuff. But he didn't seem real willing to fight, and I guess he didn't want his name out there, knowing what we know now, which was what his charge wound up being. Well, a couple weeks into this, I guess Smiley got into some stuff with his family. And his money just stopped coming. He didn't have the Western Unions going to the drug man for the Suboxone or the cigarettes. He didn't have the commissary to go throw some food out to buy a piece of this or buy a cigarette here or there or what have you. He just didn't have it like that for a couple weeks. And he was really starting to feel the pinch. Smiley had a couple little homeboys that were kind of flunkies like he was. Just lames. Just walk around talking that goofy shit all day. One of them was another kid. He was probably about 24. And I'd say he was like a Steve Urkel, but with like a city swag to him, right? dude was just goofy, wasn't all there. You could definitely see that, Mama probably did a few too many drugs when she was pregnant with him, type of guy. And that was his primary, that was his walking buddy, that was his homeboy, that was who you'd always see him with, eat with, go to the chow hall with, whatever. Those two were together. Well, one night, I'm sitting up writing a couple little letters. Maybe I got a tattoo done that night, and I was up real late. And you could just see that something was starting to go on. Those of y'all that's been to prison know what I'm talking about. You start seeing the little huddle ups happen, the little discussions happening, people calling people over to the side, and they're eyeing up, whoever they're talking about. Well, you could see that they were discussing this little Mexican dude. And for the most part, the bigger gangs that were real prevalent, like the BGF and the Bloods that were in there, they hadn't really caught wind about this pedophile yet. But you knew that once they did, something was going to happen to this man. And I'm pretty sure that Smiley and his little flunky buddy, they knew it too. Now, as far as prison goes, the little Mexican guy was pretty well off. CD player, nice tennis shoes, nice little wardrobe. Ordered what he whatever he wanted from the store. Went 75 hours deep a week to the commissary. Filled his box up with food. He was doing okay. Come to find out, Smiley and his little flunkies, which was his little Urkel buddy and a couple other guys that I guess they had recruited, knowing that this guy wasn't making any waves when things were getting stolen from him, knowing he was a pedophile or whatever, they had planned to rob this Mexican. What was the Mexican gonna do? He don't have 2 feet to stand on. So, I'm watching this develop throughout the evening and the night. And finally they make their move. A couple of them surrounded the Mexican guy at his bunk in case he woke up. And Smiley and his little flunky dude, normally if you'd see somebody rob somebody, they would just open up their locker and just start taking their stuff. The Mexican guy had one of those little padlocks. It's just a little itty bitty master lock. It's got the 3 little numbers on the side. It's not real heavy, so people can't get busted in the head with them unless you put like 5 or 6 of them in a sock and crack somebody in the head with them. Other than that, the little lock by itself wasn't going to do no damage. But they didn't just bust his little lock off his locker. They didn't want to wake the whole dorm up when they did it. So they just took the whole locker. They just picked the entire locker up, which is just a real skinny, like the size of maybe like a 5-drawer dresser in your house. With a little shelf in the top, like a high school type of locker. But it's just disconnected from everything. So they just picked the whole locker up and went over by Smiley's bunk and started taking all his shit. And you saw all this man's stuff just flying around. This person had dibs on these jeans. This dude had dibs on these Air Maxes. This dude had the CD player. And they all got together with the food, divvied it up, made themselves a nice little meal in the middle of the night in the microwave. Made a big tub of hookup, passed it around, spreading cheese on it. They're all sitting down smiling, having a good time knowing they just robbed this man. Well, the man had woke up in the middle of this and just watched everybody just help themselves to all his shit. Well, like I said, there wasn't shit he was going to do about it. He was little. He didn't speak English. He was by himself. And he was in there for fucking with little boys. So he didn't have no choice. Now he could have got up and stabbed one of them. He could have got up and done something for them taking all the stuff, but he didn't. Later on in the morning, after breakfast, the little Mexican dude went to the COs. Told the COs he was scared, he was in fear for his life. He was gonna get hurt. Told him he got robbed. But he didn't tell him who did it. But he told him X, Y, and Z was missing and whatever. So of course the code comes down. The goon squad comes running into the dorm. They're telling us they're gonna shake down if this man's stuff doesn't turn up. We didn't get no yard that day. Blah, 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 right? Just the usual song and dance, but that man's stuff was gone. It's not coming back. It's not like on a compound where you got a TV with your DOC number, scratched into the side of it, which we all know can be taken care of anyway. Or anything like that. These are jeans and tennis shoes and food and whatever. There's no way to claim whose is what, and there's no way for him to prove what's his. So eventually we just came off the little lockdown. The COs forgot about it. Dude left the jail, went on to another prison or protective custody or wherever he wound up going to. But now the other gangs know what happened. Words all around the dorm, who got what, who did what. These people running around in fresh clothes that belong to this Mexican guy. They're still eating his food. And Smiley is taking everything that he got from the robbery. You guessed it. He's buying his Suboxone pieces. He's buying his cigarettes. He's buying whatever drugs he can get his hands on. Because like I said, his money had dried up. Well, when the bigger gangs got word of this, they started letting Smiley know that Smiley's going to come off of some of that stuff. Smiley's got to pay taxes for his come up. So what they did was they pulled Smiley's little homeboy to the side and they gassed him straight up. Put a battery straight in his back. Man, you didn't get this, and man, you didn't get that. Man, I can't believe he didn't break you off of this, and he didn't break you off of that. You see how high he is over there? You see him smoking them Newports? So on and so on. You could see it coming. The gangs didn't want to hit him. The gangs didn't want to lose none of their numbers over some stupid stuff from a pedophile. So they put the battery in his homeboy's back. Before long, Smiley and his homeboy, they're squabbling, arguing, beefing over what's what and who's getting who and who got paid what and who's getting what drug. Just a whole lot of drama. And before you know it, Smiley went over to take a shower and Smiley's own homeboy knocked him out cold. Sleep, laying face first in the shower. Whew. You can imagine what the shower floor is like. Just disgusting. Just people washing nasty stuff off their bodies and scabs and cuts and wounds and dead babies in the shower. Just a horrible place. It's just kind of place that if you drop your soap in the shower, that soap's just gone. Anything you drop in that shower, if it hits that floor, you're just not using it or touching it again. It's just that kind of a vile place. And after he had knocked him out, the other gangs had come in there and got a couple little kicks in on old Smiley. Smiley finally came out of that shower after they woke him up so that the guards wouldn't catch him. And he looked like Martin Lawrence when Martin Lawrence got busted up in that fight with whoever that pro fighter was on that episode. Looked like his head was an inflated football with a bunch of knots hanging off the side of it. That's what Smiley looked like. But this all came from the place that Smiley said he was affiliated with this organization. And because nobody had bothered him about it, he thought he was entitled, like the rest of the gang members are, to do what he wants to do and not be fucked with. He had got the feeling himself, have his chest out walking around. And just thought he was something he wasn't at 23 years old. And he learned real fast that claiming something you're not is not only not helpful to you, but is dangerous for your health. Alright. So let me tell you about this other guy. By now, I done got moved down to ECI, Eastern Correctional Institution, on the eastern shore of Maryland, all the way out by Ocean City. Hours away from Baltimore, hours away from home, just far as shit, you're away from everything. It's like a 2-hour, 2.5-hour van ride chained up when you go out there. And this is a medium 2 security facility. ECI is kind of where they send you if you're somewhat of a troublemaker, or you got some tickets, you got some infractions, you got rode up, you went to lockup, or maybe they send you out there to do your lockup time. ECI just sucks. Just a miserable motherfucking place. But as the same as most prisons, this place is ran by the gangs. No exception. Aryan Brotherhood, DMI, DMU, Dead Man United. Might get into something about that later in another video. But then you got your usual suspects. Your BGF, your Bloods, your Crips, your MS-13s. There's a lot of MS-13s down there. But for the most part, the Bloods run that jail. They've got numbers that are just unheard of down there. I'll put some up here about the prison indictment that came down, which I did in another video when the feds ran in there and locked up COs and a bunch of the inmates in the prison at ECI for the smuggling and whatnot. That was all from the Bloods. So I'm on housing unit 7. In the rec hall, out doing our thing, cooking stuff to eat, hanging out, playing cards, using the phone. Just typical rec in the tier. Just inside, no yard right now, none of that. And we get a handful of new dudes that walk on the tier. Of course, everybody's sizing up the new guys. Everybody's looking at them, see if any homeboys are coming, any enemies are coming, who's doing what. Everybody's getting sized up. And this one little white dude walks in with a grizzly shaping little beard. Just a skinny little dude. Tell you who he reminded me of. He reminded me of Cheddar Bob from 8 Mile. Dude looked just like that. His name was Ticket. I don't know where the hell you get a name like Ticket, but his name was Ticket. Ticket came on the tier, went in his cell, dropped his stuff, but we were out at rec, so obviously these guys ain't trying to go ahead and lock in a cell, so he just set his stuff down in the cell and came out to the rec hall, along with the other guys that had just come in. So he comes out, and naturally he gravitates to the white boys first. Now I chilled at the table. It was all us white dudes playing pinochle, hanging out, waiting for our turn in the shower or the phone or whatever. And for the most part, I hung around with all the DMI guys. I knew a bunch of them from my other days in other prisons, other places I've been, neighborhoods, and so on. Anyway, that was who I chilled with. So he approaches us first. Obviously, you're looking for more of your kind when you first touch down on a tier. But Ticket came in on a little different tip. Ticket wanted to know who the biggest gang was. Ticket wanted to know who was this and who was that and whatever. Had a lot of questions when he first hit the tier. And then he asked us where the Bloods were. What? I mean, obviously, you could tell where the Bloods were. They had 2 or 3 tables in the back. They had a couple phones they were running. You could look at them and you could see, but it was just weird for a white boy to come out and just ask for where the Bloods are. But a few minutes later, it had come out. He had identified as a Blood. Like I've said before, I haven't heard of too many white Bloods. And the ones I have heard of, it was for a reason. They let him say he was this or that. Or what. Regardless, it just never ended good for him. Let's just put it that way. So he goes on to tell us that he's a Blood. Well, that shut the door for him with us right then and there. Especially me. I'm not going to be associated with no Bloods. But I'm definitely not going to hang around this dude so when he gets in some shit, you know, that shit hits the fan and that shit gets sprayed on me. So I walked away from him immediately. But you could see him migrate his way over to the Bloods. So he gets over there and he's shaking people's hands and introducing himself and doing what he does. And before long, it looked like he was accepted. Now, the top Blood on the tier, his name was Bronco. Bronco was every bit of 450 pounds. Just an enormous black dude with dreads. Dark skin. Looked like a sumo wrestler in a DOC outfit. Just, this dude was a planet walking around. But he had control of the tier for the Bloods. He was the head. And you could see him kind of pull Ticket in over the next couple weeks. And Ticket was under their wing. Ticket was claiming Blood. Ticket was walking with the Bloods, eating with the Bloods, playing cards with the Bloods. Ticket was being a Blood. But like I said before, I've never seen it end anyway with bad for a white Blood. Couple months goes by and Ticket's okay. You know, Ticket's done a couple little flunky things here and there for him. Transported some drugs here or there. Or he might be the one that holds their knives for him or whatever. You could see that they're just giving him the dummy shit that if he gets caught, he goes to lock up and they don't lose nobody valuable over it. So they have him do the dumb shit. But he's just walking around Suwoo and bratting and all that dumb shit that they do. Well, there's one particular day where I'll never recall. And an argument happens over the phone. No different than any other normal day. There's always an argument over this phone or that phone. These phones belong to this organization. Those phones belong to that organization. The Muslims might have a phone. The DMIs have a phone. Blah, blah, blah. Right? Everybody's got their own territory. But on this day, this blood starts beefing with this Muslim over this phone. I've seen the Bloods and the Muslims go to war before in different prison yards. And I've seen a lot of blood spilled. And I've seen a lot of crazy shit go on with these guys. I'm talking all out gang wars, like 30 on 30 with knives out in the yard, weights getting slanged, just people busted over the head with phones and locks at the side. Just when it goes down between these two organizations, it's never good. It's the type of stuff movies are made out of. Just picture like, the movie Gladiator or the movie Troy. Just these groups going at one another. And that's how it goes. But with prison knives and prison rules. Well, it comes out that this Muslim that had gotten into the argument over the phone, it winds up coming out that allegedly this Muslim had snitched on one of the Bloods on the street. There was a whole indictment over it. Somebody got a lot of prison time. Bottom line is, it's out there the dude's a rat. If a fight doesn't just happen right then and there between two organizations, then there's a lot of politicking that goes on when there's beef in the air like that. So, everybody's got their eyes open. Everybody's waiting for something to happen. Sometimes you can see it coming, sometimes you don't know it's coming. But either way, you can feel it in the air. You can see the politicking going on. You can see the Imam, which is pretty much the head of the Muslims. He's in charge of them, or whatever. And then you've got Bronco, and they're both on our tier. So they had a meeting in the rec hall. They sat down and had a little conversation. Like I said, doing the whole politicking thing about who's going to fight who's going to do what to who, etc., etc. When it came out that dude was a snitch, they had actually wound up producing paperwork on this Muslim that he had done the snitching thing. There was his name in black and white as the witness in this case, what he said, what he told on, who he told on, all the way down the line. So, the Imam, when he was approached with this information, the Imam had told Bronco to give him some time to let the man pack his shit, check in and get up off the tier, get out of that building. Well, when the Imam approached this dude that got to beefing with the Blood guy over the phone, and his name is implicated in snitching, and so on, the Imam had approached him and told him, look, you're on paper, man. You gotta go. The Muslims aren't gonna go to war for a rat. We're not gonna go to war because you got into a beef over a phone. And it's always something small like that that turns into the biggest thing between these organizations. But they just flat out weren't having it. They weren't gonna go to war because you told on somebody and then you got into it with them over the phone. Dude decided he was gonna puff his feathers out, stick his chest out, Tell that imam he wasn't going nowhere. Nobody's gonna bitch him. He's not leaving the tier. And you could just see him getting rowdier and rowdier and louder and louder. He's all kinds of snapping. Now it's turned into a public fiasco instead of just a discussion with the imam. The imam just cuts it off right then and there. Look, we don't have your back. You choose to stay, that's on you. What comes with it is all on you. We're done with it. And he walked away from him. Soon as that happened, the Bloods had to pick somebody to approach this snitch. Who do you think they picked? Don't be one of the dumbass white boys who thinks you're affiliated with these organizations, please. Don't be that fucking stupid. But you guessed it. Ticket had to take his little white ass over to this big ass Muslim dude and tell him he had to check in. Are you serious? So Ticket did like he was told. Ticket walked over and told this big dude he had to pack his shit and be off the tier by dinner. If you're not out by dinner, come nighttime wreck, you already know what it is. Well, the big dude like I said, his feathers are all ruffled up. His chest is out. So he leaned on Ticket. You little bitch, get the fuck out of my face. You ain't telling me shit. I'm not going. Whatever. Well, the warning had been given. The Bloods told him you got by dinner to be gone, or you already know what it is at rec time. So now the whole tier is getting ready. Everybody's getting their food, their coffee, their drugs, their cigarettes, whatever they can get, because we know we're getting ready to go on lockdown for a little while, because something's fitting to go down. We get back from dinner. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's rushing, calling first dibs on the shower. Everybody's calling first dibs on the phone, trying to hurry up and squeak them little couple minutes in on the phone before something goes down. Try to hurry up and get in that shower before something goes down. Get your little last minute drugs, things, food, whatever we're going to need for a couple days being locked in the cell. And then the gates open. They hit themselves for evening rec. And it was like somebody parted the Red Sea in the rec hall. All the Muslims are over here. All the Bloods are over here. All the civilians and the people that are in the middle, you know, they're not involved in anything with it. They're either upstairs out of the way, backs against the wall over here, backs against the wall over here. And everybody's just keeping their eyes open because we know it's getting ready to go down. But everybody's trying to keep it hush-hush from the COs. Because they'll just lock us down just catching wind that something's getting ready to happen. So everybody's playing it hush-hush and trying to keep it quiet. But anybody who's been around it, you can see when something's getting ready to happen. Well, we look over and we see Ticket. Ticket comes in the rec hall. Ticket goes over to his little Blood homeboys. Like I said, there's a lot of them on the tier. He's over in the middle of him. And you can just see him gassing him up. And then you see all the knives start getting passed out. Same thing on the Blood side. The knives are getting passed out. It's getting ready to be World War III in this rec hall. Guess who's got to kick it off? Mr. White Blood himself. This is where Normally, you would just say somebody just got poked or hit or whatever. The fight just kicks off. It didn't go down like that. We had another Muslim guy on the tier named Hassan. And let me just briefly break down Hassan for you. Hassan was every bit of 6'4", light skinned guy. Lived in the weight pit. If he wasn't in the weight pit, we didn't have yard that day, he was out in that rec hall doing burpees and push-ups until he passed out. This guy looked like a fucking G.I. Joe mixed with like a black Jean-Claude Van Damme or something. Like, this dude was cut up like a key of dope. Like, he was just retarded built with muscles. But he was a real quiet dude. I had worked out with him several times. Just a decent guy, wasn't all about that rah-rah shit. He wasn't, he didn't put himself out there. He was just a real quiet, humble dude, and he was cool as a fan. But he stood behind what he believed in, being the Muslim thing. And when he heard what was getting ready to go down, well, Hassan wasn't going for it. Told the imam, I'm not just going to let anybody put their hands on my Muslim brother. So now the shit's getting even thicker, right? But Hassan just sat over in the corner this whole time in the rec hall. Didn't say a word to anybody, just sat in the corner. And here comes old Ticket. The time has come. Ticket walked over to this Muslim guy, reached up under his shirt into his dip, grabbed his little poker out, cocked it back, and got ready to hit this Muslim guy. And before he could pull his hand all the way back to stick this guy, the Muslim guy hit Ticket with a right hand that would have made your dead ancestors roll around in their grave. You could just hear this just sickening thud come off of Ticket's face. Just wow. But Ticket didn't stay down. He wasn't knocked out. He was just bleeding like somebody had just cut him open with a machete. He was leaking blood everywhere. But all those other Bloods are gassed up and they're screaming at him, you better not stay down. You better get up and fight. You supposed to be a Blood, son. So he got back up. But he still got that knife wrapped around his wrist. He had an ice pick with a wristband on it so he couldn't drop it. Where you stick it into somebody, it's not going to stay in them, or you're not going to lose it out of your hand in the fight. So he still had it in his hand. And he got up and went back after dude, and he poked him a good 2 or 3 times. So they're tussling like crazy, but this little poker's not really doing much to this guy. Those of y'all have seen somebody stab with an ice pick, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't really make you bleed like that. It just punches a hole in you. And here comes Hassan. When Hassan come over top of them tables and hit Ticket, Ticket didn't get back up. And now there's 2 or 3 other Bloods that have jumped into this. The Muslim guy that was supposed to be the snitch, he's not even fighting anymore. He's got his back against the wall looking at where he just got poked at, trying to figure out if it's anywhere lethal or, how bad he's bleeding or whatever the case may be. And Hassan is getting his Mortal Kombat on over here. Like I said, he hit Ticket. Ticket slid up underneath that table. Ticket didn't get back up. The other two or three of them that were coming at the other Muslim guy, now they're coming at Hassan. And he is throwing these dudes around the room like this is shit you you just picture in the movies. Just, you know, a dude fighting 3-on-1 and just demolishing all three of them. But the whole time, Hassan's getting stabbed. You know, if you can't see the knife, it just looks like somebody's getting punched. It just looks like they're fighting. And a couple of them that were fighting Hassan, I just thought they were hitting him. I didn't know they were stabbing him the whole time. Every time they hit him, they punched another hole in Hassan. They're going for a good 2 or 3 minutes. Again, anybody who's ever been in a fight, a minute is an eternity to give everything you got in a fight. Let alone 2 or 3 minutes and fighting three dudes. Like I said, Hassan was an in shape ass, go hard, cock diesel, fighting son of a bitch. He whipped all three of their asses, even getting poked up, even with a black eye. Got hit in the ribs a couple times. I mean, this man, he went Terminator on these guys. Well, by now, the COs have obviously seen what's going on. There are COs coming from every which way on the compound. They're screaming on the PA system, everybody down on the ground. Everybody locked down. Everybody get away from what's going on. Just complete chaos. They've got the tear gas guns out. They've got the shields out. The goon squad is in full SWAT team gear. And Hassan is still fighting in this rec hall. Now the rec hall is just a big triangle room. I'll try to get a picture of it and put it up here. With a stairwell. And it's a chain link fence between the tier and the rec hall, with a secure door to lock us in the rec hall during rec time. And when the COs got there, they're watching this fight go down. And there's like 30 COs out on this tier. But they weren't coming in the rec hall. They weren't coming to save nobody. And they were scared to death of what was going on in that rec hall. There is blood flying. There is knives flying. There are human beings flying across the room. And these COs didn't want any part of it. Finally, when it all started to calm down, now the COs are holding the mace cannons up and all this stuff. And everybody dropped their knives, hands up, and so on. And going out the door. Obviously, the first ones they pulled out the door are the ones that are fighting. So they take them out. You know, they're trying to wrap them up with sheets, those that are bleeding and have been stabbed and whatnot. They're wrapping like sheets and shirts around them, and they're getting them to medical. The little cart comes and takes one or two of them up to the medical unit to get them treated. And then obviously they take us all out of the rec hall one by one, you know, and start locking us down. The last one to get brought out of the rec hall was Ticket. We were all in our cells. Well, directly across from where the rec hall door is where my cell was. Of course, me and my cellie were at the window looking at everything that's going on. And then I told you directly next door to me was Bronco, the head of the blood. So about 4 feet away is his cell door. They done woke Ticket up, brought him back to life somehow, slapping him around, brought him back to consciousness or whatever. And they're bringing him out in handcuffs and giving him medical attention and whatnot. And Ticket looks over at Bronco, He's like, all right, Bronco, I love you, bro. I love you, bro. What do you think Bronco said to him? Bronco laughed at this man. Bronco laughed at him. He said, I don't love you. You ain't no blood. Get your bitch ass on. And you just saw the life flush out of Ticket's face. All that time, eating, making food with these guys, chilling with these guys, giving these guys drugs and money and food. And when it came down to it, they put a battery in Ticket's back and sent him into the lion's den first. Ticket's walking out of there thinking he just held it down. He just stabbed yo. He went and fought for the Bloods. He held it down. He's for them. Brat Suwoo and all of that. And after he's mangled up and beat the fuck up, and now he's going to lock up for stabbing somebody, it's all on tape. The CO's seen the whole thing go down. Saw him with the knife in his hand. This man's going to lock up for at least 6 months. Maybe a year over stabbing and a knife and gang affiliations and so on. And to have the man that you thought was your homeboy, your leader, your big fella, your big homie, laugh at you and let you know you ain't shit. You're not a blood. You're not one of them. You did all that for nothing. Ran your bit up. Now you're gonna go sit back on this miserable ass lockup in the summer. 120 degrees in the daytime, 100 degrees at night if you're lucky in the cell. And then when all that's over, you get to come off a lockup and you're still gonna be dealing with the repercussions. Because now you done poked a Muslim. You went at a Muslim with a knife. The Bloods have abandoned you. You got beat up. Lost all your shit because believe me, when they were locking him up, his cell buddies helped himself to all of Ticket's shit. His TV, his radio, his clothes, all his food, everything that was in the cell. When Ticket came off a lockup, he realized he didn't have none of that. He didn't have none of his homeboys. This man was completely butt naked in more ways than one. And it all comes from behind him claiming that he was something he wasn't. Him thinking he was what he wasn't. The point here is these white guys in jail, you're already not liked. And you know what I'm talking about. Most white guys, unless you're just a laid back dude who gets along with everybody, the black guys just don't fuck with you. It's just call it what it is. But not only that, they used you to complete what they wanted to get done. And now you gotta start from scratch with all that hanging over your head. Whatever tier, jail, whatever institution you wind up in. So the bottom line here is, don't try to be something you're not. If you're going to prison, you're in prison, you're going back to prison, you don't want to be a part of that gang life any fucking way. But for damn certain, don't think you're affiliated with any of these gangs that don't have white people in them. Don't be a fucking moron. So those are the two stories I had for you today. I know this one ran long, but I just had to tell you about these two dummies that thought they were just gangbangers. Thought they were a member of a black gang. They weren't shit. And there's plenty more where that came from. I'm sure you've seen them in the joints you've been in. I'm sure you've been privy to hearing stories about people just like this. Stay away from that gang shit, man. Until next time, y'all. Do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button for me, man. Hit the like button. Share the videos for me. I'm still trying to get this thing off the ground. It's starting to pick up some speed. But I could really use your help, man. It don't take nothing for you to click the subscribe button. Let you know when I drop a new video. If you don't like it, delete it later. But help your boy out and hit the subscribe button. I'll see y'all next time.